Do you have unfulfilled goals or dreams? I hear from many people who have a vision for their lives, ones where they're healthier and happier and doing work that feels meaningful to them, but they aren't there yet, despite many attempts. What blocks us from reaching our goals? Perhaps not taking action at all, or the action we're taking isn't leading to the desired results. So, what's happening in this situation? The activity of the mind, our thinking, is running our lives. And where does that come from? Well, it comes from our beliefs. It comes from our own beliefs or holding the beliefs of others. And some of this is natural from childhood. We're exposed to things, we're exposed to our parents, our siblings, our friends, our community, and we start making decisions. And particularly the decisions we make when we're very young. Sometimes they're made with limited information, or some are misunderstanding of things. And then we hold on to these beliefs unconsciously, but what happens then, we start living our lives according to it. And this is why it's so important for us to get to know our inner world, to get to know what kind of beliefs am I holding? What am I acting from? Because that will shape our thinking. And many times I'll hear people talk about going to therapy, for example. And they go to therapy and they learn these things about themselves. They observe these things and then accept them as permanent or don't see any possibility of changing it. And this is where our understandings in yoga and Ayurveda make a big difference because we understand what are called the Mahagunas of tamas, rajas, and sattva, which are they're the aspects of nature, and that's nature around us and nature inside of us. Tamas being negativity, stagnation. It's also black and white thinking. And tamas is something that it allows fear to be cultivated in us because we're hiding from life. Now, there's also tamas that's our sleep. So this tamas, rajas, and sattva, remember, is not black and white. It's not just good and bad. We just need enough tamas so that we sleep at night. But if we have too much tamas, then we become negative and stagnant and move into black and white thinking. The rajas being the activity of life, but it needs to be the right kind of activity in the right amount. And too much activity or the wrong kind of activity leads to disturbance in us, both mental and physical. And then that will lead us to more tamas. But if we have rajas, activity of the right kind and the right amount, then it moves us towards sattva. And sattva is balance and harmony. It's the sweetness of life. It's things like a balanced meal of good food with plenty of prana or life force in it. It's the things that bring us peace internally and have us feel a sense of joy, a sense of depth in life. In yoga, there's something called the Kleshas, or the afflictions of humanity. The first of those afflictions is avidya. Avidya means, it can mean ignorance or not knowing. But it leads us to what's also called moha, which is sort of a subset of avidya, you could say, that is delusion, illusion and delusion. And so think about it, not too much, that we start establishing our thinking pattern based on some decisions that we made, our beliefs that we hold on to. And sometimes we have incorrect information. For example, when we're a little kid and we're in a situation where we think we're supposed to know, but we don't know something. And then we make this decision somehow that we're not enough or that we can't do something because we don't know how. And we don't try. We don't explore and see what we could do for various reasons that might happen. And so then we establish this belief, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not good at that. And this avijja then leads us to develop some what we call ahamkara from yoga. And the ahamkara is the ego. Now we understand that we need some ego. That's what has us go out the door and be in life. But we don't need the type of ego that tries to hide those beliefs or hide the things that where we think we're inadequate, for example. So we can have ego that thinks that I'm less than you. Yeah, I'm inferior because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. I don't sing well. I don't do this well. I don't know how to dress well. But it can also be that we then try very hard to be better than. And then the ahamkara, that part of our ego, really likes to feel right about things. So it can be right about, I'm better than you. It can also be right about, I'm less than you. And the ego will be happy. And that's the part of us that starts to create this misalignment where we come out of alignment with our eternal self, with our true self. Yeah, so this illusion and delusion, we can cultivate it over many, many years. And then suddenly we realize that there's something we always wanted, and we haven't even taken the action to do it. The other thing is to recognize that we're not our mind. It's just a tool, just like the body is a tool. These are tools that we've been given to use. And I'm sure that each of you know that you have that moment in time where you experience yourself. In other words, where you have a true knowing about something. There's no question about it. There's no debating it or thinking about it. It just is. Well, that part of ourselves is what looks at the mind. And that part of ourselves can begin to train the mind and the body to be in harmony with who you truly are. It's just, it's part of the human condition for us to discover and to recognize that our real job is to go inside, to come to know ourselves from the inside out. Then we can take responsibility for ourselves easily and not be in victim mode about in life, and be able to make the choices that take us in the direction we want to go. So we can break out of the illusion and delusion and develop a greater willingness to learn and to change. Sometimes I hear people say, I'm afraid of change, or I fear change. We're changing every day. That's an important thing for us to recognize. Nature changes every day. Sun comes up, sun goes down. We change every day. So the idea that things are supposed to be exactly the same comes as part of this avijja, this illusion. And that some of it might be if you grow up in an environment where the temperature is always the same. It just doesn't work that way, and life doesn't work that way. And so we can begin to retrain the mind so that we don't allow it to take us into these places that are inaccurate. So, with that openness and willingness to learn and to change, recognizing perhaps that we have some beliefs that are inaccurate, beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about life, and our ability to move forward in life, to implement and facilitate our desires in life. So part of that, it means that we need to let go of the past. And when I say let go of the past, it doesn't mean that we wouldn't remember something, but perhaps it is reframing it, how we see it. We see things when we're 5 years old from a certain point of view. And when we're 45 years old, we can see it differently. And one of the things that I did that helped to change my thinking was there were some particular patterns that I had. And that is just to take a period of time, maybe 2 days, maybe a week, and have a mental diet and to not allow yourself to facilitate the negative thinking or making up stories. And one of the things that I was taught and that I did do and was very helpful is that when I came to recognize that, oh, my mind, I'm doing that again, I'm thinking those negative thoughts about myself or about something in my life. And then I would stop because once I'm aware, now I can do something about it. The awareness is not enough. And so I would just say out loud, oh, I don't do that anymore. And so it would just cut that flow of energy. And then I would replace it with another thought, something that was positive and took me in the direction I want to go. Some people might say, oh, how could it be that easy? Well, it's not a matter that it's that easy because it requires some attention. Uh, but the benefit from it is palpable. You can feel it. So you're here and listening, and there's something inside you that wants to evolve. And finding your why in life, the reason this change is so important to you, is something that I would suggest doing. And it can be something very simple. And then I suggest you stay connected to it. Don't let it go.